Welcome back. Women for Change is appealing to big concerts and concert promoters to reassess their choice to allow Chris Brown to take the stage in Johannesburg on the 14th of December this year. Now, his concert is scheduled just days after the global commemoration of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Brown has a well-documented history of violence towards several women. For more on this, we are joined by Bulelwa Adonis, who's the spokesperson for Women for Change. Bulelwa, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Now, South Africa is in the midst of a GBV crisis where femicide rates are 5 times higher than the global average. On a different side of the coin, Chris Brown is now reported to have had multiple assault charges as well as sexual assault allegations, and he's the performer to be performing in South Africa. How does Brown's performance hinder South Africans, or rather South Africa's objective when it comes to GBV?
Good evening, Katle. Well, thank you so much for having me this evening. We truly appreciate it. I think, like you said in your introduction, considering that as a country, our femicide rate is 5 times the global average, statistically, the fact that 1,894 women were murdered and 567 children were murdered in South Africa just from January until June this year is quite telling of the fact that we are truly being plagued by gender-based violence. And like you so beautifully said, that unfortunately, someone like Chris Brown has a long record of abuse, and it's a huge slap in the face to a country like ours, where we were titled rape capital of the world. That although yes, he is a beloved entertainer, an artist, and people adore him, the matter of the fact is, when Chris Brown comes here and when he leaves, this is still going to be a rape capital of the world. We're still going to have gender-based violence. You know, as an organization, we don't practice selective activism. You know, we have one mandate only, which is we don't support or condone people who are violent, essentially. And in this case, the fact that he obtained a visa to our country and the looseness in our system to allow his accessibility to us, considering how dire this pandemic is in our country, it is distressing and disheartening, to say the least.
Do you believe that cancelling or postponing the concert would set a precedence for other performers with similar histories? And how could this impact future events in our country?
I think, looking at the state of our country, looking at how dire the GBV pandemic is, I will continuously call it a pandemic because that's what it is. It was here before COVID and it'll be here after COVID. I think that cancelling an event like this I know it would evoke people, but the reality is, with our femicide rate being 5 times the global average, generally, only logically speaking, it only makes sense that as a country, as a society, we should be a lot more stricter, in a sense that we shouldn't allow any and everybody to gain accessibility to our country simply because they're on people's playlists and people love them and they are people's favorites. You know, this is bigger than give the people what they want. This is, let's address the elephant in the room, which is gender-based violence is something that we continue to suffer in. Statistics are only going higher. So it's going to enforce more accountability, which is something we lack heavily in this country.
Does he have any convictions that you know of? Because some may argue that if he hasn't been convicted by a court, would you hold such allegations against him, even in the business of coming to a country and performing?
Sure. I know that most of us would have known about the whole Rihanna thing. And then I know that a lot of people who have sent hate our way have been very adamant about the fact that he did the crime, he did the time. But what I do know is there is a documentary coming out at the end of this month that will basically relay his abuse allegations and whatnot and convictions. So before I confirm anything on a personal level, I think that that documentary will indicate. But I think I am aware of the fact that he was convicted. It's bigger than just what he did to Rihanna. He has a history of abuse allegations.
Have other organizations or prominent figures expressed support for Women for Change's appeal in terms of him not coming to the country?
There's a lot of people. There's even individual activists as well. An organization I can think of off the top of my head is Girls Against Oppression. They're also quite loud about the sentiment that we share, and it's not just them. I know that we have been receiving a lot of hate, a lot of threats. We've evoked a lot of our so-called supporters that are, I guess, offended that we called out their favorite. But yes, there have been quite a few organizations and individual activists in support of us because they share the same sentiment, in fact.
So you've asked big concerts to cancel this upcoming concert. What response are you expecting from them regarding this appeal, and what actions would you take in terms of what you'd like to see the promoters do?
So we haven't been in contact with them yet. Right now, we're sitting on almost 7,000 signatures for our petition. And initially, the goal was 5,000 signatures. But as a team, we said that we'll get to a point where we feel like, OK, we have enough signatures. And only then will we go to authorities. So your big concerts, will we go to places like Home Affairs just to argue and get to the crux of the problem in terms of how this individual obtained a visa, etc. So we haven't been in contact with big concerts as yet, but the hope is that we evoke a seriousness towards GBV.
And talking about evoking a seriousness, I mean, despite his past, the concert has sold out. So where to from here?
Yes. Yes. That is true. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I will say it again in case I didn't. But Chris Brown is a beloved entertainer. People love him. People adore him. He is on people's playlists, so it doesn't completely surprise me. But you know what? We'll continue. We, as a team, we said that we're not giving up. We're keeping to our stance in the sense that we're fighting against gender-based violence. We want to obtain more signatures, and then once we feel like we've reached enough, we'll take it from there to the authorities.
All right, Bulelwa, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. That was Bulelwa Adonis, the spokesperson for Women for Change, who are calling for big concerts to cancel the Chris Brown concert that's coming up this December.